Good evening, my friends. I want to address a couple of very simple, straightforward aspects of applying neuroplasticity to recover from chronic illness tonight that I see popping up a lot recently in my work. And both of these are under the umbrella of this understanding that when we're rewiring the limbic system, all of your symptoms are just your brain. This idea that we need to have that as kind of a baseline perspective on all of our symptoms. And I realized that a lot of the folks I work with, like most, honestly, like so many people, most of them, that there's this idea that's very much in the intellectual part of our brain, like our prefrontal cortex. There's this idea floating around of, okay, it's just my limbic system, so I don't need to be too worried about this. But it's not embodied in how we are emotionally and behaviorally responding when symptoms show up or intensify. Oftentimes it's not happening there. So applying that aspect, which is a foundational principle for success in recovery, is what that actually looks like is when you notice a symptom pop up, that you just recognize it as my limbic system has activated. Like the baby woke up and started crying. That's how I want you to look at that. And with this, the other thing that is so absolutely vital and essential, it is non-negotiable, and I see so many people treating this like it's an afterthought, and you won't recover unless it's so simple, but you won't recover unless you do it. All of your symptoms are just limbic activation. No more naming them to yourself. It doesn't matter. It's not so much about how you're talking about things with other people. It's about how your brain, how you are perceiving your symptoms. Because when we have limbic impairment, our limbic systems see our symptoms as bad guys. They see them as tigers, as people, like as scary, threatening things. And that's part of it. So if we're wanting to realize that there's nothing wrong when our limbic systems activate, it's really important to drop labels, even basic ones. Like maybe it's not, I have SIBO, or I have MCAS, or I have ME. It could be something as simple as anxiety or pain or brain fog. But removing all those labels and just saying my limbic system's activated, or I'm in freeze, or I'm in fight or flight, or something like that is so important. Because otherwise what happens is, often when we rewire against, a lot of people have a number of different symptoms, but usually there's one or two that are at the foreground. I also want to highlight that it's really common for people to have symptoms that are always there. People tell me like that talk to me as if that's really rare. That's most of what I see is people who have 24/7 symptoms. That's totally rewirable. That's very, very normal. It's not like these things just pop up once in a while and you handle it. A lot of times they're just there all the time. So when someone is rewired around whatever the most loud presenting symptom is, and oftentimes they've found certain tools that work really well for it, oftentimes the limbic system will switch gears because it's trying to keep you in stress chemistry and in a trauma loop. That's what it thinks safety is. So if one particular symptom isn't getting your attention and pulling you into that loop, it'll try something else. It'll make a different one louder. And when we're not seeing it as it's all just limbic activation, there is a whole web, as you're probably very familiar with, of stories about what it means when this one gets worse versus that one, and why doesn't that tool work for this one when it worked for that one, and what does it mean that I did wrong, and what does it mean about my diagnoses, and there's just all of a whole web of loops that you get just stuck in like a spider web when you're seeing different symptoms as different and not just as, oh, my limbic system activated, I need some dose chemistry. And that's the true message behind the false message that something is wrong, which is a feeling that's there because the chemistry is one of danger. So it's going to feel like something's wrong when your symptoms are really active and really present. It's supposed to. That's how it's supposed to feel. So when you're responding in a way that allows for recovery, you're recognizing when the symptom gets louder. A lot of times there's initial like, oh, it got louder or something new popped up. But then you want to say, okay, no, that's just my limbic system. The baby's just crying. I just need some dose. I need to, you do some somatics, do a visualization, listen to some music, really get my brain grooving down a new pathway and out of the loop, and create dose to switch your brain state from this amygdala activated fear response or freeze shutdown into a calm, relaxation chemistry associated neuronal pathway that's going in a straight line where your brain is actively engaged in something, whether it's a visualization or breathing or a meditation or music or laughter or whatever. So that's huge part of this. And with this is so key. If you're still with me, this part is such a big deal. So one of the things as well with the it's just your brain, a lot of times people use that the way that it's taught, I think, and then the way it's used is, oh, I don't need to worry about it. It's, oh, no big deal. I don't have to do anything. But you do. Your limbic system is impaired, and your brain, you need to build new brain function. So there's this sense of, I just need to think positively. I just need to expect things to go well, but we're not actually building the brain function. And there's also this feeling that if it's just my brain, it should feel natural to rewire it. No, it's going to feel really awkward and unnatural. Like, that's one of the biggest things I've seen a lot of people recently. And over time, I've seen this. It's just been a flood of them recently saying how like visualization feels really, they feel like they're trying to fix something, or it feels really awkward and like weird and strange. And it's like, I feel like this isn't the right thing, is the feeling. So they don't want to do it. But I've also seen time and time again how when they push past that and do it, their process goes way better and they get back on track. And I want to highlight, I've used an analogy I've used in another video, that rewiring your brain, building brain function, is like growing a new limb that you didn't have before. It feels really awkward, and you're overriding your survival response. The thing that's supposed to keep you alive, you're overriding that. I don't know how else to, like, it is a big deal, and it is not going to feel like the right thing a lot of the time. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to feel straining. It's like trying to use an atrophied muscle. So I want to highlight that, and I see a lot of people come up against these types of perspectives, or the feeling of resistance they get, and then just back off, and then just spin out and spin out and spin out, and wonder why their process isn't working when they aren't doing a process, because it's hard. It's supposed to be really hard, and it's supposed to feel wrong and weird and awkward a lot of the time. As the more you do it, the more comfortable it gets most of the time. But I can tell you, even down the road, there are days where it just takes everything in you to override all the weird, awkward feelings, and how difficult and straining and just, it's challenging. It's just difficult to override that. That's a normal part of this process. That's what it looks like when you're doing it right. That's what it's supposed to feel like. So hopefully that clears up some of that for you guys, so that you can have a process that's more effective. Because one of the most frustrating things in this process is to have been doing it for a long, long time, and then realize years down the road that you weren't actually doing it right in a way that really would actually rewire your brain, and then be like, oh, wow, that was a lot of months or years of practicing in an incorrect way. So that's my goal, is that this helps you fine-tune your practice so that it's more effective. Love you guys.